Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you had a good Friday. Didn't do our recap yesterday, so figured we'd just do 2 days here in one. Honestly, we've just been consolidating, right? So we spoke about Wednesday how CPI had already delivered into the daily fair value gap. Right? We created daily volume imbalances that we're using here. So we have a lot of daily levels. We've already moved a lot. Made sense to see price consolidate here. This is our 1 hour fair value gap. So we had mentioned we wanted to see if consequent encroachment would be traded to. That's what we hit Wednesday morning. And you'll see that ended up being high of the week. So after hitting that consequent encroachment, we just go back down into the daily volume imbalance, right? Consolidate around that, give a short-term break, returning into the rejection block, still holding at the 1 hour, however. So at this point, right, we create now another set of daily volume imbalances. So you're really seeing a lot of these consolidation signatures being put into place. And that's why price is now just consolidating here. Notice how the low of this candle here ended up tapping that daily volume imbalance perfectly. And now we've closed just slightly above it. So if we look on like a daily chart, right, you'll really see what we're talking about. This is the daily volume imbalance here. We are in that as well. So we have this daily volume imbalance. We have this current one. And now we have this one here. And we had this one here. So 1, 2, 3 in a row. We still kind of expect price to run higher, but if you look at this daily chart, right, we've been expanding aggressively. We need to kind of see, let me hide this. So really what we saw here, right, is price was reaching for this buy side that we were expecting. A lot of up close days, we would expect some consolidation, price to kind of create small range days. Now we've broken through that high, we start expanding aggressively again, huge range day. So we would expect smaller range days. We're still looking for these highs. Notice how we had relative equal highs here, this high and this high. That's really what we're seeing here now. We got this high and this high. So we would see if we can't just consolidate, maybe dip back down into this fair value gap a little bit, kind of like we did here, and then expand up and through these highs. On a 15-minute sense, let's pull up this drawings back. So we still have that daily fair value gap. There's lower daily volume imbalance as well. Thursday here just really consolidates within that daily fair value gap. So we create a short-term high in London. We run that out. We come back down to touch that daily volume imbalance, creating sell side. We now have relative equal lows here. So we engineer a sell side. We reverse to now attack buy side here, hitting that daily volume imbalance again, breaking away to that and attack that sell side, before ultimately reversing to attack the buy side. So just classic seek and destroy. Creating buy side, attacking it, creating sell side, attacking it. No one's really safe in here, right? We're just moving back and forth. I guess we can look quickly on like the 5-minute. There was a few opportunities here. So if you know how to use and utilize the inversion, as we first clear this buy side and hit that daily volume imbalance, we're creating a fair value gap. So if we close underneath that, we would expect price to want to use that as an inversion level. And that's what we see here. Right, as we sweep that buy side, we're breaking back underneath the fair value gap. That becomes an inversion. We use it once, break lower. We use it again, however, before ultimately delivering into that sell side. So give a few opportunities on that higher time frame. The 1 minute here looks like this. So within the 1 minute, this is the inversion. Well, now you compare that with the actual 1 minute bearish. That's aligned with the daily volume imbalance. So it's a real nice place to short. And I mean, look at how precise. Right, that level gets respected. You could use swing highs above the fair value gap, regardless. We hit that level beautifully. We then reject. And from here, we then run pretty aggressively, only returning into this most recently formed premium. Right, you'll notice that that's that low that we're hitting. So we don't even get back up into this higher fair value gap. Only into this one. And notice how when we use the same thing here, right? Bearish fair value gap, daily volume imbalance. Well, this is a bearish fair value gap. So is this, and now that's that daily volume imbalance. So the wick goes into the fair value gap. Look how that daily volume imbalance is holding the 1 minute structure. So these daily levels are affecting 1 minute time frames. That's why it's really important to understand where you are in higher time frame sense. We finally run into that sell side here. After hitting that sell side, we consolidate, play around a little bit. You'll look, if you notice closely, right, we still even form a short-term YouTube model, short-term low being cleared. We then break this high, leaving behind a fair value gap here. So now we're coming back into the OB, right, into the inversion volume imbalance here as well. But we ultimately hold that, trade higher, create a breakaway gap, and now re-attack, right, really the buy side up here. So we create kind of short-term buy side, and now we attack inner range liquidity. But once we attacked this low that was created was really safe. So you'll see we come up and create a short-term high, just buy side that we'll attack later. And now in here, we're just attacking inner range liquidity. So a lot of lows left behind, right? You'll see price creating lows, running those lows, creating a low, running that low. So in here, even in here, there's mini seek and destroy. So it's always looking to just do the most damage it can, right? Say people trying to trade as we break this low, break structure here. They're trying to buy now, right there, get ran out. Ultimately, this was kind of the last run on stops here. And now in the same way, we can look at like an inversion entry as we're clearing that low, we're doing it with a bearish fair value gap. So if we were to overtake this, we can use that as an inversion level, drag it out. Right, you'll notice how we come into it a few times, but ultimately it holds us. And now we get that delivery into this buy side here, giving a deeper retracement, hitting the midnight level, right? Kind of still playing around the daily volume imbalance. So these two lines are the daily volume imbalance, and you see how much price kind of bounces back and forth between that. We're still getting the setups, right? Kind of attacking the buy side, but really gravitating around that level. Ultimately, as we head into the close, we were able to get into that buy side. And then after the close, we did get into the actual external, the high made here in the New York session. So we just consolidate, right? We can continue that consolidating trend. And now here on Friday, we slowly do the same thing. We can look at a 1 minute, however, right? We do get short-term structure that can be used. So now if we actually we'll go to the 5 first. So as I take you to a 5 minute, right, you'll notice we'll still hit the rejection block. So we didn't get above these highs, but we have equal highs here. Relative equal highs. So we have buy side. If we were to drag that out, we run into that buy side here. So Friday creates relative equal highs. And now as we head into New York, we run up and through that. You'll notice that we create equal highs here even, but we actually don't even return up to get into those. So we create equal highs, we move away, back underneath this liquidity, right underneath, creating inversions once again. This, we create the breaker here is what we use as we're going lower. So we're leaving the hourly, we're creating that breaker, right? High, low, higher, high, that gets broken. Once we close below here with this candle, notice how these candles barely wick up into it. We like to see when we wick into it, and then the bodies actually remain, right, not even kind of get into that area. Just signifies that price is pretty bearish. So on the 5 minute sense, you could use that, right, as a short. We had created this short-term sell side. So even in the short term, say you wanted to just target this, right, you don't need to get the whole move. You could be content with enough targeting this sell side here, because it's now aligned with this pair of daily volume imbalances as well. So say you just had this as an exit point, right, that's plenty. We can look at a 1 minute, kind of see if we could have refined. So on the 1 minute sense, still have the same breakers, right, consecutive down close. You'll notice that we create an actual fair value gap here that never gets hit. So if you were looking for a fair value gap entry on that lower time frame, this is where you end up missing out. Instead, as we break lower, hit that breaker, it actually does give you another chance here. So as we break lower, now breaking underneath this low and this low, we create that fair value gap like these. Consequent encroachment holds, right? We wick up into it a few times, and then ultimately we break pretty aggressively into that sell side, into that daily volume imbalance for the first time. Notice how when we get underneath that sell side, this is right before 9:30. So before 9:30, we've already dug into that sell side. We give a quick retracement into a fair value gap, and then we give us another run lower. So barely wick into that fair value gap. We then run lower, right? Where we're running into, well, just that now, daily volume imbalance. And also, let me pull out the daily fair value gap. The daily fair value gap. So returning to daily levels, as we expect, consolidation here, right? You'll see that we wick into the low, we then retrace, and then here it gets pretty ugly as well. So at this point, we've hit the high, we've hit really this external range, right? So if we're in a consolidating market, we're going to want to revert back into the range. So when we're at the extreme like this, that's why we then get this sell-off going from the 1 hour fair value gap back into the daily fair value gap. If I was to drag out the daily volume imbalance, right, look how we're using that level. So just continuing to reference the daily levels, this daily fair value gap, this daily volume imbalance. Right, I think we get the point now. So we bounce in here, and now as we head into lunch, right, consolidate, we had created buy side. So during lunch, we just have a tendency to attack the opposing liquidity, right? Especially if we're consolidating, we've been one-sided all morning, we delivered into sell side. Well, now we have buy side resting here. So price uses the daily fair value gap, catapults us up into that buy side liquidity, gives us a short-term retracement, but now we start kind of attacking the buy side that was left behind on that run lower. So we had equal highs here as we were going lower, right on the buy side of the curve. We're going to target that. We have equal highs here and here as well, right, that we can target. So this swing point here that returns into the breaker, right, we attack that. And even quickly here during power hour, we run up one more time to clear some short-term buy side. So overall, this past few days have been rather choppy, right? Rather boring delivery. We haven't been too interested in engaging. The good thing is we can foresee this kind of price action coming though. So as long as you can understand when it's most likely to occur, then it's fine to just stay out, right? We're not worried about what price is going to do. We're not surprised by seeing price just consolidate like this. And if you really do want to trade within the range, we know how to do that as well, as you have seen. So you still can take advantage of some opportunities if that's what you were looking for. But yeah, that's really been Thursday and Friday. You'll see how we're consolidating just kind of around the daily volume imbalance again. Let me pull this one out. As we notice, right, look where that candle closes. To the tick, taps it, and then closes just on that. Going forward, like we mentioned, still kind of prefer higher prices. We still have this fair value gap that hasn't been touched yet. Oh, it's there actually. So let me go. All right, so this 1 hour fair value gap here. If we can dig up into that or dig down into that, clearing now these relative equal lows, right? Equal lows we have returning into an inefficiency. I'd like to actually see that and then look for longs coming off of that. So go lower to just go higher, right? We've engineered buy side here now. So ideally, if we can kind of hold this fair value gap in the short term, attack sell side first, then we can kind of pick up those stops and continue to aggressively reprice higher into this high and this high here. Right, and that's the hourly high. So yeah, going forward, that's kind of what we'll look for. Might run lower first, still have that daily volume imbalance. So we could honestly consolidate around here for a few more days. No high impact news on Monday. So Monday could be another rather choppy day, but we will still see what we can get. So I hope you found that helpful. Until next time, take care everybody. Have a good night. Talk later.